Hey audience and professor, I'm Josh Shetland, and today I'm giving you a little presentation on metaverbal communication and how it relates to sales. You can see here that I have one audience member, I'm sorry, but it's my beautiful wife. You might as well show yourself. But we live together, there's no one else here, and we're trying to maintain social distance, so I hope this is acceptable. Metaverbal communication, by definition, is the nonverbal or unspoken cues that carry meaning, that enhance what is being said and gives more depth. What that means for us is that verbal communication isn't that boring. You can see here some types of meta communication or metaverbal communication are the tones of your voice, body language, gestures, facial expressions, and etc. But those are the four that I'm going to be focusing on today to share with you a little bit. You may ask, what connection does it have to sales and what's the big deal? So really quickly, I know you have sales experience. Emma met me when I was having sales experience, or in the middle of it. And I think we can all agree that it's mentally a tough thing to do. You get a lot of rejection. It's not something that's easy. It's not something that you can just walk into usually and be really good at. And so it's also a very high pressure situation. If I was trying to sell you on getting an A or sell my wife on why she should marry me, those are tough things, and I want to get the sale. It also takes a lot of convincing, and so I have to do my part to make sure that I deserve the sale, or in other words, you love the product and anyone loves the product. And finally, it's more than just the product. It's in any sales situation, if the person doesn't agree with or relate to the salesman, it's a much harder experience. And so you're selling yourself, you're selling the product, you're giving benefits, and you're explaining what is the reason that this would be good for you. Okay, so I have a little quote here about the art of sales. It says, "The art of selling draws upon your relationship skills, your integrity, your gut instincts, your creativity, but I think most of all, it draws upon your experience. The art of selling may compel you to take a risk that could ultimately cost you the sale, but it could successfully break you through a logjam." And I'm going to talk about two things that this quote just explained. Number one, I'm going to talk about what could ultimately cost you the sale or could get you out of a logjam. And I'm going to talk about the experience, because truthfully, a lot of the metaverbal communication in here comes over time, and I'm no expert. I'm not perfect, but I've acquired a lot of these skills through my experience. So number one is body language. And direct-to-home sales, what I'm involved in, it's a little different, but these principles could apply to everybody. Let me show you. If I were on someone's doorstep and we had begun talking about my product, and I built a little bit of rapport and we built a relationship, I'd get to a point where I'd say, "Great, Mr. Johnson, you've seen what I've done for some of your neighbors, and you know that it could benefit you. Here, you told me you had a little panel on the inside of your home for security. I'll touch a couple buttons on it." At this point, I would look down, I would wipe my feet, and I would begin to walk in the door. There's a couple ways that they could react to this. I don't know about Professor Kilpack. He probably would not respond and let someone in their door. But a lot of people would say, okay, this guy has shown me what he's all about. Now, his metaverbal communication, he didn't ask me to come in, but his metaverbal communication is saying, I'm coming in your home. And so generally, they get out of the way. Now, I don't do this all the time. I do enjoy when this kind of tactic or this communication works. But a lot of my peers, my associates do it. And it's very, very effective. And another example of body language is the communication of motion. As I'm walking around someone's home saying, hey, this little motion sensor right here is going to protect you, it won't sense your dog. would you like to put the camera here or here? The motion I'm creating by walking around their home and using all kinds of body language to show them and this and what I've done, it creates emotion in them where they see, well, this product's actually in my house now. How can I envision this? How is this going to benefit me? And so instead of just sitting here at the table and doing that like I've just done, there's a lot more impact in the sales process. So that's body language. The second metaverbal communication that I'll talk about is the tone of voice. I almost did pest control sales last summer, and the pitch goes a little something like this. Hey, Mr. Johnson, I just came from your neighbors, the Patellos. We help them out with the new pest control service. It's usually $129 initial and then $200 a quarter. But I'm just doing it for $100 initial and $139 a quarter. That sounds good, right? Can you take this and sign this real quick? So you can see that the voice tone, it's high on the highs and it's low on the lows. So the highs I want to expound, 129, but we're just doing it for 100. You can kind of see that the emotion there is the customer can see that they are getting a benefit, and it's a lot more taken aback when it's loud in their face, but softer is something they want. And so in the pest control pitch, it's very fast, very, very fast. You try to get through as many doors as you can, and you just try to expound your voice, your tone, and just help them to see the value you're bringing them immediately as quick as you can. Okay, so next, this third metaverbal communication is gestures. So as you've had experience with, and you've probably done studies on, closing is the most difficult part of any sale. And so gestures can help you be a more successful closer. If I were to say, Mr. Johnson, I've been in your home now for an hour and a half, and we've done all these things and talked about all these benefits that my product could give you. We've built rapport. We know each other now. Are we going to do it or not? Yes or no? A lot of people have a harder time closing a deal and accepting buying something right there, yes or no. And so there's more subtle ways to close. What I would do instead is, Mr. Johnson, I'm so excited to help you put the camera there so you can see your dog. And I'm so excited to give you the doorbell so that next time your neighbor toilet papers your house, you can have a little bit more evidence. All we need from you is a little bit more information, and this is going to be a home run deal for you. You can see what I did there is I made it really easy. I gestured them the little paper to sign, and I just nodded. I said, this is great. And so in his mind, he's thinking this is the easiest decision. All I have to do is put my little finger on this paper. This guy, I trust him. And so the emotion that goes with the gestures in this scenario, it can close a sale for you much more than asking, Mr. Johnson, are we going to do this or not? The final metaverbal communication is your facial expressions. What I like to call this is mimicking. If I walked up to a door, I'd gotten somewhere in the conversation to where the neighbor said, oh man, your cameras are cool. I saw my neighbors who actually had some type of break-in and the camera caught it. And I'd say, that is awesome. That's crazy that the camera caught it. We love to help the families that we're protecting. But sir, what exactly happened over there? Like, how did you know about it? Do you know that neighbor very well? And so my expressions are matching his. Also, if there was something like, oh man, I just don't have time for this. Like, oh man, like, no worries, me neither. This is so hard. I'll just take 2 seconds of your time. If we mimic each other and I mimic them, it usually ends up being a lot more of a personal communication. So the facial expression is more of me selling myself to them, and then eventually I'll sell a product to them. So words are a very important part of our communication. We can't go around, unless you speak sign language, you need to communicate with people to a higher degree. But the metaverbal communications are what can seal the deal. They're what can give a lot more description. You can see emotion. You can learn about people because of the way they speak, not just what they say. Metaverbals are very impactful.